Illinois State Police setting up a protest perimeter around the ICE facility in Broadview. We're looking at a picture that ISP put out of the restricted area, the existing fence and protest areas, and media designated areas as well. Interesting to see that as we reflect on the past week's rhetoric from Democrats and Republicans about public safety around immigration enforcement. As we started this week, Governor J.B. Pritzker saying he expects military on the streets in Chicago. Have yet to see that officially released from the White House, but here we are. It's Friday, heading into a weekend where we could see more protests outside of that ICE facility in Broadview. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of the Center Square, Illinois. This is Illinois in Focus Daily, and thanks for waking up with us each and every weekday morning here. So again, let's go to this news release from Illinois State Police. Yesterday, they said that they're setting up a unified command established to help protect First Amendment rights and public safety in Broadview. And let's go through this news release. It's a joint command with the Police Department of Broadview, the Cook County Sheriff's Office, Illinois State Police, the Illinois Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management Services, and Cook County Government. But it says at the request of the Broadview Police Department, the Cook County Sheriff's Office, and the Illinois State Police, with the assistance of Cook County Department of Emergency Management and Regional Security and Illinois Emergency Management Agency, have established a temporary unified command to coordinate public safety measures in Broadview around the facility being used by U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement. The Unified Command setting up designated areas where people can safely exercise their rights, which will support the safety of the public and ensure vehicular traffic can access roads in the area. The goal of the Unified Command is to protect the health and safety of all individuals, including nearby Broadview residents and businesses, and enable peaceful expression of First Amendment rights. The agencies involved in the operation will neither assist nor obstruct federal enforcement immigration statuses in compliance with state and federal law. Uniformed officers will be on site to help direct people to the designated areas. In addition to protecting the safety and rights of people peacefully expressing their views, these measures will also ensure that third parties that need access to the facility, including attorneys and legal representatives, people bringing medicine to detainees, and representatives from foreign consulates, will maintain clear points of access to the facility. So again, it lays out a map of the protest areas, the safety lane to allow emergency vehicle access, and designated media areas with existing fences lined out there. So interesting to see Illinois State Police lay that out. But here we are with just a little bit of a flash of what we've heard over the past week from Governor J.B. Pritzker and House Minority Leader Tony McCombie.
Agents reportedly unholstered their guns and pointed them at protesters. In their own words, ICE intended to unleash, quote, a shit show in the Broadview community. Without provocation and acting like jackbooted thugs.
When rhetoric turns dangerous, this is used to disrupt, damage the very stability of our nation, and it's put at risk. We've seen these tensions rise here at home, driven at times by our very own governor, who just yesterday called agents jackbooted thugs.
So again, that was Leader McCombie, Governor Pritzker, just a little back and forth to give you a sample of what we're going to be hearing here for this segment. But let's go ahead and hear from the governor. Earlier this week, Monday, he opened up and said, hey, he's getting notice that there's going to be 100 military personnel sent to Chicago to assist in the protection of property and personnel for the federal government because of what happened last weekend, where you had violent clashes and a couple of people arrested with firearms up against the fence area at the Broadview facility. So the governor, he talked about how people need to stand up against this, he said.
In Broadview, people non-violently holding signs and chanting against brutality, expressing their First Amendment rights, have been regularly attacked with chemical agents like tear gas, pepper spray, rubber bullets, and flashbangs. Agents reportedly unholstered their guns and pointed them at protesters. In their own words, ICE intended to unleash, quote, a shit show in the Broadview community. Without provocation and acting like jackbooted thugs, ICE has attacked and detained members of the press, including an independent journalist.
He went on to talk more about the stories and the anecdotes from the protesters' perspective there, not necessarily from the ICE officers on the ground there. But Pritzker went on to talk about how people need to stand up.
The state of Illinois and all of us will continue to fight this with everything that we have. So, people of Illinois, we need your help. Get out your cell phones, record and narrate what you see. Put it on social media. Peacefully ask for badge numbers and identification. Speak up for your neighbors. We need to let the world know that this is happening and that we won't stand for it.
He, of course, later we'll hear and talked about peaceful protests. But, he was taking questions about the protesters' behavior in Broadview.
Well, I think that it's clear that there are no rules for ICE, that they literally just believe they have the run of the place, that they can take out their aggression on the people of Broadview, on the people of the city of Chicago, that the federal government and the President of the United States have just given them carte blanche to do whatever it is that they want. Let me be clear. There have been about 1,500 people that have been detained by ICE in the city of Chicago and the surrounding areas. 1,500 people. 60% of them, no criminal record. 60%. Now think about that. Listen, terrific when they get somebody who's a criminal and take them off the streets. Fantastic. But this is not the way law enforcement ought to be allowed to operate.
And again, the governor saying that's not how law enforcement should be allowed to operate. House Minority Leader Tony McCombie and other Republicans held a news conference earlier this week talking about increased threats against ICE, and they offered up a couple of different solutions dealing with reversing the Trust Act, the state's sanctuary policies. You've also got a measure that was promoted to have distances between ICE and other law enforcement conducting official activities and protesters, giving 14-foot distance between law enforcement officers conducting official activities. But McCombie said that the rhetoric from Pritzker isn't helping the situation.
This is not just a trend, it's an active threat. If we remain silent, small sparks will ignite into uncontrollable fires. Now is the time to speak out assertively and restore order before more violence is enabled. Make no mistake, these are ideologically motivated acts. This kind of violence has no place in our country. I have taken every opportunity to speak up and speak out against political and targeted violence, against the reckless rhetoric that fuels this division. When rhetoric turns dangerous, this is used to disrupt, damage the very stability of our nation, and it's put at risk. We've seen these tensions rise here at home, driven at times by our very own governor, who just yesterday called agents jackbooted thugs.
So we'll hear a little bit of the governor in a moment talk about peaceful protests, but the Department of Homeland Security putting out this news release yesterday. 2 vehicles used as weapons against ICE officers in Operation Midway Blitz and separate incidents yesterday. The continued anti-ICE rhetoric spewed by Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson continues to ICE law enforcement facing a more than 1,000% increase in assaults. The Department of Homeland Security condemns violence against all federal law enforcement. As just yesterday in Illinois, criminally illegal aliens used their vehicles as weapons against federal law enforcement. ICE officers were targets of 2 separate vehicular assaults in the Chicago metro area, in Bensonville, Illinois, and again in Norridge, Illinois. Criminally illegal aliens weaponized their vehicles in desperate attempts to ram and injure officers carrying their sworn duty to uphold our nation's immigration laws. And you could see a couple of images there. Thankfully, none of them were killed because of these deranged criminal attacks on law enforcement. This is exactly what happened when Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson, and other sanctuary politicians Republicans demonize ICE and encourage illegal aliens to resist law enforcement. That's according to Tricia McLaughlin, the acting secretary of DHS. So you can see, again, some of the other headlines here. And DHS also highlighting that all throughout Operation Midway Blitz, they've arrested more than 80%, or rather more than 800 illegal aliens. And this comes, of course, as the governor and others have said, 60% of those that they've arrested don't have criminal convictions. That means 40% do, and 800 arrested altogether. You can kind of, splice the numbers yourself there. But they go on to talk about all of the different crimes, some of these 800 plus illegal aliens they've already nabbed in Operation Midway Blitz. Deals with some of the worst of the worst, they say. They're talking about, pedophiles, murderers, gang members, rapists, domestic abusers. So getting them off the streets. But back to the governor talking about protests. He says that it should be peaceful.
If you're going to protest peacefully. Look, I think it's fine to be in opposition to the president's views and opposition to the president's policies. There's nothing that incites people about that. Who's inciting people? Stephen Miller is calling Democrats fascists. The president of the United States is trying to label the Democratic Party as if it's some terrorist organization. Who is inciting people?
So, this is after, of course, the governor has called the president authoritarian, dictator, a whole host of other things, MAGA, characterizing them certain ways, and congressional Republicans characterized certain ways. So, the rhetoric here obviously is something that is showing a pretty stark divide. Back to McCombie, she said if it's really a problem with ICE enforcing immigration law, then send the police.
If there's something going on there, why is the governor sending citizens to this site? Why is he not sending law enforcement, his law enforcement under his jurisdiction, the Illinois State Police or Chicago Police? Why is he sending citizens into a battleground? I would highly doubt that ICE was targeting anybody from the media. They're doing their job trying to protect themselves, the facility, and the detainees.
Now, joining Leader McCombie was State Representative Jeff Kiker, who proposed a couple of different laws. One in particular would allow for 14-foot distance between official law enforcement activities and protesters. And he says that police are under assault.
Whether serving a simple traffic stop or a warrant, whether it's ICE or local police, we've seen officers mobbed, leading to situations that spiral into more aggressive but entirely avoidable outcomes. We're calling today for elected officials to make changes to offer safer environments for all: law enforcement, people voicing their opposition, and journalists covering the news of the day. Everyone deserves to work in a safe environment, even if you disagree with them. Besides incidents involving ICE, we saw a perfect example of this just last week when a Chicago peacekeeper interfered and even threw a punch at officers attempting to apprehend a suspect fleeing in a stolen car. We must bring down the temperature, and political leaders need to stop the use of aggressive rhetoric that's putting lives at risk. Our law enforcement officers all put on the uniform with the intent to protect and serve. And today that calling is under attack.
So we've got the prospect of more protests, but will we see the same level of conflict that we saw last week in Broadview, especially now with Illinois State Police setting up a unified command structure to have fencing and specific free speech zones, so to speak? Governor J.B. Pritzker earlier this week said he's been in talks with local law enforcement and getting them what they need.
They've asked, yeah.
They've asked it, and what might that be, and have you decided on?
Things like gas masks.
Okay.
So things that a normal police department, especially a small one like Broadview, might not have. And so they're just asking for support in that way.
Will we see these gas masks needing to be used by local police because of protests against ICE outside the Broadview facility this weekend? We'll do what we can to keep up on it and keep you posted. So be sure to stay with us. Go to thecentersquare.com to get the newsletter in your inbox each morning. And follow us here on YouTube. Click like, subscribe, notification bell. You know the routine. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, each and every weekday morning here with you for the Center Square.